So, Chantal, did you get a chance to watch the film we're reviewing today?
Yeah, like I was really excited about holograms and watching Gem in the holograms. It was so fun, and I just felt like I should try and wear something appropriate
Wait,
for the movie.
I did you just say Gem and the Holograms?
Yeah, rock out.
Chantal, I told you to watch the film about holograms from 2017 called Marjorie Prime. Marjorie Prime from 2017, written and directed by Michael Almereyda, starring Gina Davis playing Tess, John Hamm playing Walter, our premier hologram, Tim Robbins playing John, and Lois Smith playing Marjorie, the titular Marjorie. So it's based on a play by Jordan Harrison, which is something we'll go into because it definitely has the feel of that original piece, I imagine. It is about a family that is dealing with the matriarch who is about to pass away because she of just old age, and they have given her a hologram of her late husband to kind of act as a comfort in her, in her last couple months or weeks. And this hologram of her husband tries to behave as much as he can like her real husband and tries to learn from her about her real husband so that he can more accurately emulate him for her. That's the character played by John Hamm. And so it's really a movie about grief and processing grief, and memory very much. Yeah, so now that you've watched the film.
Yeah, I
Right.
was able to make that happen quickly.
Yes. She is a hologram. She just downloaded it. What did you think of it, Chantal?
So, that was a clever line you just said. I was like,
Thanks.
Good one, Anne.
Wow.
Really
I too am a hologram.
But it's my movie.
Okay, here's some popcorn to go along with it.
Folks, you saw it here first. Gem, live, and out of control.
So, Marjorie, proper living Marjorie, has a daughter, Tess, and she is married to John, played by Tim Robbins. So these two characters come in and are like facilitating Marjorie's kind of like end of life stuff. Like they're just kind of being with her and like taking care of her. And Tess is very suspicious of this hologram, played by John Hamm. Which, given John Hamm's performance, is not that, like, I understand. Like, yeah, I think John Hamm is such an interesting choice for this film. What did you think?
John Hamm is an interesting person because he, I don't know, in some ways, so he's playing this older husband who marries a younger wife, which is just Don Draper, pretty much.
Right, he's
so,
a little Don Draper-y.
Yeah.
You're still too old for me.
We'll grow old together. I'll just do that a little sooner than you. After a while, it won't really matter.
And I don't know if it had to do with direction, as to why, I don't know, there was something that was very stiff. I know he is a hologram, but the holograms are also supposed to be super realistic.
Right.
So I guess it was hard to kind of understand what he was playing, especially because we didn't really see much of human Walter. We saw there were a few flashbacks that did show up.
After a while, it won't really matter.
And that was curious to me too, because it made me wonder who is driving the flashbacks forward. Like, that's such a convoluted
No,
line.
you're right. What is motivating these flashbacks?
Right.
Why are we seeing them?
Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden, I'm supposed to drop out of school?
Forget my family, forget my career, forget about all the things I had planned for my life?
Forgive me for screwing up your plans.
But it's also, since it's so much about memory, I wonder if it's supposed to be an exact, like an actual scene of them in the past, or if it's supposed to be like a how they remember things being.
I think you are presenting an idea that could have made this movie a lot stronger. Because I think this whole question of like, if we're looking at flashbacks, we're looking at memories and questioning whether those memories are real or not. It would have been really cool to see the movie play with that. Yeah. Especially if the holograms are creating a memory from fragments of the different family members.
Like they're creating their own memory.
Right.
And it is the actual event, not a memory, because later they're like, let's pretend it wasn't... What film was it?
Oh, My Best Friend's Wedding?
Yeah, let's pretend it wasn't my best friend's wedding that you proposed to me right after. Let's pretend it was Casablanca. And then later they talk about it as if it had been Casablanca that he proposed to her right after they watched. Mm-hmm. But in the actual flashback, we see it is my best friend's wedding.
Right.
So that is actually supposed to be the real event, not a, like, memorized version of it.
Sure glad I'm hearing about this now before it's too late.
What is that?
What am I supposed to do?
I'll be honest, I think I may have liked this movie more than you did. I'll say that I actually didn't... I thought it was very interesting to watch. I thought it did a couple things that were quite interesting, like, so we get John Hamm as the first hologram, and then later... Marjorie, the older woman who was dying, becomes a hologram herself. And her daughter, who was very skeptical of the hologram idea, Tess and Marjorie Prime have a conversation, and I think it's easily the best scene in the film. Yes. I mean, it is. It's not easily. It is definitively the best scene in the film. Yeah. This daughter and her deceased mother having this conversation about what their relationship was like, and, you know, things that they never talked about before, and trying to, you know, her daughter's trying to heal, but she can't really get over the fact that it's just a computer she's talking to, which kind of speaks to their real relationship, too. So I thought that was a really great scene.
I'm not really good at this.
Good at
pretending that you're... Sometimes you are so good. You're so her. That bit with the subtle racism. But other times it's all too apparent.
Try to be patient with me.
The rest of the film, honestly, I could pretty much leave, you know what I mean? I don't know. It definitely had some interesting ideas, and I think the way it was structured made me realize how they got so many celebrities on board, because you could see yourself reading the script and being like, oh, how interesting, like, wow, this is really doing something, but something about the way it was actually put together.
Yeah, I question the editing choices. And I also just question fade outs in general when
anytime a film uses fade outs, you know. I just yeah. Especially
when it's not fading on like the end of a scene per se, or it's just I don't know, it makes me question why it's being used, because it's like, was there just not enough footage, or like what's going on? And it's just, I think it's also calling into attention the edit itself, which I don't think that's necessarily the intention of this film. So, right. Yeah, and I definitely agree. The scene with Marjorie Prime and the mother, I wonder what it would have been like if it was the first scene, because I think the first scene with Marjorie and Walter Prime is what I should say. That's much easier. Their exchange, I understand it's meant to question and tease the world, but I think the only thing that the story is really putting down is like the compelling like spectacle is the idea of having holograms resemble loved ones who have passed.
Right.
And then I think the secondary part is how the family cycle evolves as others die, as loved ones die.
Right. Yeah, it's like about generational memory. Like, how do we end up remembering things and why?
But I think, what's your take on that though? Like, how do you feel like the way that it was presented on screen? Do you feel like that was effective and that was clear?
I felt like it was a little. I mean, I don't know anything about the writer or director, but to me at least, it felt as if this was very much an imagined family drama, not a personal one. And I think that speaks to the fact that this is based on a play that's not by him. So it's not his family situation. He doesn't really know what these family dynamics are like. It felt very much like a cardboard cutout of a family drama. Like, they had a son who committed suicide at one point long ago, and they never talk about him. And they just are always kind of throwing that information around kind of casually, and it's just like, okay, like, that's very, like, filmy, I think. And it feels like, how are you going to add some drama to this family? Oh, a child committed suicide. Yeah, it just felt a little, I don't know. I don't want to say it's insensitive necessarily, but it felt a little like it was just being used and not really understood. And I think a lot of the dramatic elements felt that way. It was like, well, what makes for drama in a family? This. But it didn't feel like the writer really understood how these things actually affect a family. So yeah, I do think the concept is genuinely interesting, and I think they do some interesting things with it, but it would be so much stronger if it was written by someone who was actually taking their own family and being like, what would it be like if we had, like just thinking about writing a scene, like, from my own perspective with, like, a family member who had passed away and was now a prime version. Like, I literally just got, like a small, like, like, you know? But I didn't get that from this film once, really.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I feel like there's so much potential to go in so many, like, interesting directions with the film, and I just feel like it kind of stayed closed in, which I don't necessarily mind, but I think just giving the insinuation that there's more to this, because you have, like, heavy hitters like Tim Robbins and Gina Davis who, like, delivered great acting, but the material and the dialogue, everything was almost as though they were just quoting things, quoting.
William James had the idea, and it's been confirmed scientifically, that memory is not like a well that you dip into or a filing cabinet. When you remember something, you remember the memory. You remember the last time you remembered it, not the source. So it's always getting fuzzier, like a photocopy of a photocopy.
Even their stories felt like quotes from something else, and it was just really disappointing, because I looking at the premise, and gosh, there's just so much potential that I don't
There's
know.
a lot of potential. And as soon as that scene with the daughter and Marjorie Prime happens, they totally jump the shark after that, because the daughter, Tess, it's later revealed, commits suicide on a vacation with her husband, and, like, this totally bizarre, it's so strange. Like, it's like, wait a minute, where have we gone? Like, is this Grey's Anatomy all of a sudden? Like, what am I watching? And then the husband has a conversation with Tess Prime. So it just kind of keeps going. Like, the holograms keep getting replaced by more and more people who have died. But it just doesn't really work after that, because it's just they just overdo it. It loses its effect.
It does. And I as we're talking about this, it's making me think about the ending. I think it was the last scene, but the scene with the Primes and the family talking to each other, as though, pretty much in this way, as though they finally achieved being the people who they were trying to be. And these, like, revealing these gaps of what they knew or thought that they knew. I thought that was really cool, but I almost I wonder what it would have been like if that device was used multiple times. Like, if there was a debriefing. I guess it couldn't, because it would require the different people who died to have been dead, I suppose. But yeah, it just kind of felt attached, like latched on without it. It just wasn't teased out. A lot of ideas not teased out.
And there really was no emotional climax. It needs not, at least not for me. And for a split second, I thought the emotional climax was going to be at the end with all these different primes talking to each other. I thought they were going to start, like, screaming at each other. Because we never get that. Right.
That could have been amazing.
We never get that moment where they all really hash it out. And they're like, we need to talk about what's happening. So when all the primes were kind of like, wait, I didn't know about this. Wait, I didn't know about that. Like, wait, what? I thought, like, we were finally going to get a moment of catharsis. But no, they're just like, huh, well, this is the reality we've created. Anyway. And it's like, okay. Like,
how cool would it have been? Because then it also goes to this whole question. I'm so inspired. I want to write, like, a script like this so bad. But, yeah, like, what if they were able to do the things that the family was just too... We need to write this.
Never do.
We need to write this.
Well, and you're also always waiting, even when there's prime, real human interaction, you're always waiting for that moment when they break through. But the primes are really just like, tell me more about myself.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And the humans are like, you're not enough, you're not them. And it's like, we know.
Yeah.
Like, what are we learning? Yeah, like, we get it.
Oh my gosh.
And for a film that's about such heavy drama and the stakes are so high, people are dying, like, there's no breakdown. There's no moment where they're just like, we can't do this. Like, we can't live like this. It's just like this very, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, you're totally right. There are no peaks, really. It literally has that same note, which is ironic because John in an earlier scene is playing like the beginning of that one song and just kind of keeps playing
You're
one
right.
note over and over
You're
again.
right, yeah.
The Salversons.
So maybe it's intentional.
It might be intentional.
Yeah. Honestly, just the scene with the mom, with Marjorie Prime and Tess, even that would just make like a great little short film.
I was thinking
just
the same
that,
thing.
yeah. Just
That's all you need.
Yeah.
I want to see this made again in like
by us right now.
We're gonna make this.
But it's my movie.
I think it had a lot of interesting themes and it didn't totally butcher them, but given how interesting the themes were, I think it just could have been done so much better.
I completely agree. Yeah.
I wonder if we would have liked it in the play version, or if we would have the same thoughts.
I'm curious. Yeah, I think I'm gonna check that out. I'm gonna see if there's a way to find the stage play and compare it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see what areas were like adapted and what wasn't, because that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe there was just some things I felt were translated. Maybe it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it could be the exact same thing because it really is just a bunch of people sitting in rooms together talking.
Yeah.
So it could just be the play. But you know what? It's not a remake. It's not a sequel to something that, you know, like it's an original, like it was a play, but you know, it's original film. It was trying to do something. It brought in some talent. They did a good job.
It's true. It made us think.
I definitely don't regret watching it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like, oh, well that was, no. Like I was like, okay, interesting. Yeah.
Was what it was.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Again, perhaps not as good as Gem holograms, but what could be?
Hey, Gem, hang loose.
You hang loose.
Yeah, that is true.
Mm-hmm.
We can definitely unpack that at some other
Another
time.
For sure, for sure. All right, so let's do some superlatives. What do you think?
Most use of holograms in a movie.
Most
I hope I'm right. Well, I've seen that's the most I've seen.
I don't know.
I could probably be challenged.
It's probably a Star Trek film that has more holograms.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe holograms of relatives.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you got?
I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'm surprised I came up with that one.
Let's see. Cutest dogs.
Yes.
There were some very cute dogs.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk of dogs.
Yes, a lot of dog talk. Very cute dogs. A lot of talking about the dogs. Dogs on the table, petting the dogs.
Yes. I wonder about the payoff and what it was for, but we appreciated it.
Ultimately, it seemed to be only a device to show the passing of time. And to kind of show that Marjorie Prime was clever and that she was able to be slightly racist in the same way that real Marjorie had been. Because Tess mentions Shibu. What are those dogs called? Shibu Inu.
I don't know if that's right.
Everyone knows what those dogs are. They're a meme. They're a total meme.
They're
Anyway, and she's like, they're really popular in Japan. And Marjorie Prime's like, well, that makes sense. And she's like, that's kind of... Anyway, so the whole point of that dog is to be like, look at Marjorie Prime and how, like, realistic she's being. And then later it's dead and replaced by another dog, so that's how you know time has passed. Kind of.
I guess so.
But other than that, oh, and there's this really, really disturbing note where, like, the son who committed suicide a long time ago also apparently killed the dog.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
you can't just throw stuff like that in your
Yeah,
film.
it was
and be
very
like,
casual.
Yeah, like, hello?
And there wasn't really any insinuation. Like, literally all that was delivered in the dialogue.
Well, and then they get a replacement dog that was the no. The replacement dog is the one who died. But the point is they had a poodle.
Yeah.
And then they got another one that was like an exact replica of the old poodle, and they even gave it the same name. So it was trying to be like, this is what we do with people. Like, we replace. But, like, what?
Yeah.
Like, getting an actual other poodle is nothing like replacing the poodle with a computer. That's not the same. Anyway.
Yeah, then eventually it's like there was no difference.
Right.
But then even that whole false memory of, like, who got the dog and...
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
But still, very cute dogs. I'll give it
super cute
very
dogs.
cute dog appearances, yes.
Let's see. I think aside from watching Smallville, where Lex Luthor and his father would have these, like, really long philosophical conversations quoting philosophers and everything and all kinds of literature as their means of, like, fighting each other. It was so good. And I guess this film was kind of doing, it wasn't really a similar thing. I don't know why I made the comparison of the two. Like, they
Welcome
sorry.
to the shed.
Jim is my name, no one else is the same. Jim is my name.
I'm the real Gem. All right. If you're the real Gem, then prove it. Sing something.
Oh. Sing if you can!
Yeah, sing. Sing.
No!